Hi guys, so all the AS economics students who are appearing for the exam tomorrow in the AM in the morning tomorrow, this video is for you guys. So this is the last video that I am making for today. Tomorrow is your paper. I can understand how nervous all of you are, how anxious all of you are, and there's so much going in your head right now. What's gonna come, what's not gonna come, whether this will come or whether this will not come. So I completely understand that. First of all, guys, I would like to thank all of you who attended my live streams. I hope all those streams and all the content that I have posted throughout, all the videos and all the live streams and all the Instagram and content that we have been doing, the evaluation series, the analysis series, the how to write an essay series, all of those series that we did, all the information, the Learn with Adil series, a lot of things that we did throughout the year. I hope all of this has helped you in your preparation, and I would like to wish you all the best for tomorrow. Now, and it has been phenomenal and a great experience for us as well, in teaching all of you throughout all my social media family members on Instagram and YouTube. You guys have been phenomenal, in asking me different questions and helping me contribute in one way or the other to you guys. Now, guys, a couple of questions that I have been coming in that I would like to address you, since I said this is the last video. Firstly, one very, very important thing. Tomorrow, the biggest problem or the biggest struggle that you will face is time management. That is the biggest, you can say, challenge that you need to conquer tomorrow is all about time management. And a lot of students who end up getting bad grades is not because their learning is not good or they aren't really prepared well for their exams. It's all because they're not able to complete the paper on time. They are not able to complete the paper on time. They are not able to finish the paper on time. They somehow leave a question or something because they haven't really done a lot of past paper practice. So now you need to follow the technique that I'm going to be telling you. What you need to do is that you need to attempt the case study first. And believe me, yes, I am absolutely correct. Attempt the case study first. And the reason why I am saying that is that you need to give yourself 40 minutes, very strict deadlines on attempting the case study, because you see, the first 3-4 questions are all for 2 to 4 marks, right? And then you have the last 6-8 mark questions that you need to do in the case study. So you need to give yourself very strict deadlines as far as the case studies are concerned. 40 minutes, you have to wrap up the case study. Don't write very long answers in case study. Write short answers in case studies. No long answers, guys. Short, precise, to the point answers that directly address the question, with no unnecessary or irrelevant details. Unless they haven't really asked you to make a diagram in case studies, there's no need to make a diagram. Be relevant to the point. Now, relevant to the point doesn't mean that you end up writing 2-3 lines. What I try to say is that don't write elaborative, unnecessary long answers. Now, and also, when I say that don't write elaborative, unnecessary long answers, I don't mean that you don't need to complete the chain of analysis. You have to complete the chain of analysis and evaluation, but be very specific to the point. There's no, for example, the question is coming on monetary policy or inflation. There's no need to sort of define or write a whole long paragraph on what monetary policy is before actually addressing the question. In the case studies, this is basically in the case study that I'm talking about, right? Because in our essays, we usually, in the first paragraph, we usually define the policy, we usually define whatever government intervention. Any question that, let's say if they're asking on unemployment, we start off by defining the types or telling the types of unemployment, we give the formula and all of that. You don't need to do that in the case studies. In your case studies, you have that point-based marking where the examiners will exactly look at the marking scheme and then your answer, and then it has to match the marking scheme. It has to mention, address whatever is in the marking scheme, and it has to satisfy that. But in level-based answers, your answer can deviate from the marking scheme, and the level-based answers are judged according to the overall holistic assessment of the examiner, and as the examiner deems fit, that whether he feels that you have sort of satisfied all the assessment objectives, and how it's a qualitative assessment. Anyways, guys, coming back, 40 minutes for case studies. You will first attempt the case study, wrap it up in 40 minutes. And the reason why I'm saying attempt the case study first is because when students generally do not attempt the case study first, they either attempt section B or section C first, and they see their favorite question, they have a tendency of overwriting and overdoing things. And when you overwrite and overdo things, what happens is that you have less time available for the rest of the scores, for the rest of the questions. And this is where the problem then starts getting in, because you overdo the first question, you write a lot and you do it very well. You end up scoring probably full marks, but then you're left with less time for the other question and the case studies. So wrap up the case study first. This will build pressure for you and very strong pressure on you to complete section B and section C on time. So 40 minutes, you finish off the case study, right? And then as far as section B and section C are concerned, the maximum time for 8 mark question in section B or section C is 15 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. Make sure that don't write a lot. For instance, if you're writing points for analysis or even evaluation, and you're like, you know what, I'm able, and now the time limit of 15 minutes is about to end, and I thought about writing, and I'm already done with one evaluation, but I was supposed to write another one, and I know it, but then I won't have time for conclusion. Don't write that evaluation. Directly move on to the conclusion. Finish all the points. That is introduction, analysis, evaluation, judgment. That has to be there. So if, let's say, you miss out a point on evaluation, you have given one, you miss out the next point, but then move on to the judgment. Finish the structure. That is, your structure should be finished. Even if you haven't really written a lot in detail because you were lacking time, but in such a scenario, make sure that the structure is complete. Introduction, analysis, evaluation, judgment. Okay, so 15 minutes maximum for your paper, for your section part A question 8 markers, maximum 25 minutes for 12 markers. Okay, maximum. This is what, and you have to be very strict. Again, I'm saying focusing a lot on time management. Make sure that you follow these guidelines, otherwise you will not be able to finish the paper. Second, so this is time management. So you attempt section A first, then section B and section C. Okay. And if like I said, if the time is ending and you have a question left, let's say you have a whole question left, right? So if you have a whole question left and the time is ending, then again, make sure that the structure of the question is complete. So if let's say you're doing a question on monetary policy, explain how monetary policy, or discuss whether monetary policy would reduce inflation, or whether it is the best in reducing a recession or something like that. So make sure that you define monetary policy. Then instead of writing the whole mechanism and how monetary policy solves the problem of recession or inflation, you quickly jump onto probably the limitation or the advantages, and then you come up with a justified conclusion. But even obviously, you see, you won't really have the time to write a lot of advantages or the disadvantages, because you're about to finish the paper and you lack time. You don't have enough time for it, right? So what will you do? Then obviously you will just mention the key points, like the main points. You will not have enough time. But again, the structure has to be there. Make sure that instead of writing. Now, the problem what students do is that they start off the answer of monetary policy. They would start off defining monetary policy. They would give all the ways of how monetary policy solves the problem. And then they would start off the advantages, and they would come out of the exam hall complaining that you were unable to finish the paper. Now, what they mean is that they will say, we were on the last question, but we didn't end up finishing it. What they meant was that they were writing monetary policy very well. They did monetary policy definition or fiscal policy definition, whatever the question is. They were talking everything about it, but they weren't able to conclude or evaluate it. So write short then, but make sure that the evaluation is done, make sure conclusion is done, make sure that your analysis is done. Even if you're writing 1-2 points, even if it is 1-2 points only done in analysis, instead of explaining, you weren't able to explain it, still write 1-2 points in analysis, and then give evaluation. Give 1-2, whether it's only a point in evaluation, give it. Whether it's a conclusion, whether it's a 1-liner or 2-liner, give the evaluation. Got it? Your paper has to be completed. You have to complete the paper. I'm repeating, you have to complete the paper. Your biggest struggle will be time management. You have to follow these deadlines very, very religiously and strictly. Okay, guys? Another thing, paragraphing is very, very important. Paragraphing is super important. Minimum 4 paragraphs you have to make. That introduction paragraph, analysis, evaluation, and judgment. Now, analysis, if you're writing 2-3 points on analysis or 4 points, make sure that at least over there as well, the whole page shouldn't be on analysis. You could do multiple paragraphs over there as well. But again, minimum 4 paragraphs should be there. If you're writing a judgment, the way the judgment has to be written or conclusion, the way you start your conclusion, or the way the evaluation starts, the examiner should clearly understand that you're starting an evaluation or you're writing a judgment. So separate paragraphs, separately. Also, diagrams should be properly labeled. They shouldn't be sandwiched in between the essay. It's not that you're writing an essay, you make a diagram on a very small diagrams don't really count, right? So if you're drawing a diagram, make a big diagram. not a huge diagram, but a relatively clear diagram. It should be properly labeled and it should be properly referenced. For example, you should say the above diagram says that, the below diagram says that, or the diagram on figure 1 says that, or figure 2 says that. Label it. Draw the diagrams with a dark pencil. No need to draw it with a pencil or with a pen, but draw it with a dark pencil. Make sure that you don't write with ball pens, because ball pens don't write fast. Write with a fast gel pen or any pen that writes fast. Okay. Apart from that, we're done with. I've talked about paragraphing. I have talked about the need for drawing. Also, and I'm going to say it again. As far as your diagrams are concerned, your diagram shouldn't be sandwiched between the essay, which means that it's not that you're writing the essay and then you draw a diagram on the left and then you again write it on the right and then you write below as well. So your diagram is sort of sandwiched between your essay is eating up the diagram. It shouldn't look like that. Make your diagram central. Also, there's this thought or this myth among students that the more diagrams you make, the better marks you get. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. I mean, people have unnecessarily gratified and diagrams, and they have given diagrams more importance than is necessary. Diagrams are important, but then you have to make the examiner realize the importance. That why are you making the diagrams? Diagrams aid analysis, they aid evaluation, but only when you are able to prove that. Or if you're making a diagram, then for instance, the question that whether a rise in aggregate demand will always cause inflation, you make a Keynesian diagram. What's the point of that Keynesian diagram? Why did you end up making it when you haven't really explained it? How is inflation not coming because of that diagram? So what you write is what matters. What are you writing against it? So diagram shouldn't look like a loner. It should have, the diagram shouldn't be just, the diagram is just there without its reference. No, the diagram has to be explained. What is the diagram trying to say? Also remember that diagram is not a perfect substitute for analysis or evaluation, right? So yeah, draw the diagrams if you want to, but flooding the exam paper with lots of diagrams that the examiner will be impressed. No, the examiner will not be impressed because of this. The examiner will be impressed by good vocabulary, a good answer structure, a coherent answer structure, and a reasonably justified logical conclusion. That's what impresses examiners. Diagrams would aid analysis, they aid evaluation, but unless and until they have asked you to make the diagram, there obviously you have to make the diagram. But let's say that a question comes on tariff, and let's say you write everything down and you do not end up making a diagram, still you will get those marks if the analysis and evaluation is proper, right? So, but if you make the diagram, then explain the diagram and explain it what the diagram is trying to say. Don't just make it, explain it. If you're making the Keynesian model by saying that a rise in 80, then explain it. For example, if you're on the horizontal range, we can see that a rise in 80 is not causing inflation as shown in the above diagram. For example, make points in the Keynesian range, the horizontal range, make points A and B. Say between A and B, 80 is rising, there's no inflation. Only when you move close to full employment, only then inflation occurs. When you move on to that intermediate range. So again, diagrams, very important, but giving them importance more than they are required, such that you think that diagrams is all that is needed in the answer, and flooding your answers with diagrams without really making the diagrams being used in the essay wouldn't really help you. Also remember, guys, tomorrow 2-hour paper hai, the 2-hour paper requires a lot of your energies. Make sure that you sleep on time. Don't pull an all-nighter. You need sleep. Even if you are thinking of planning to revise and all of that, make sure that you at least have 4 hours. Minimum of 4 hours of sleep is required. Minimum 4 ghante, 4 hours minimum you have to sleep, right? Ideally 6 hours, but minimum 4 hours you have to. I understand there's a lot of panic, there is a lot of stress, but yeah, that's what we all go through, and that's what exams are meant. I mean, exams are a time that it's a test. It's a test that it's a test of nerves. It's a test of patience. It's a test of how can you manage your stress. And a lot of learners who do really well, but if you freak out, you have to make sure that in tomorrow's paper in the morning, you have to control your nerves. You don't have to. And if let's say you start having some sort of a panic, then keep your head down, do deep breathing, start deep breathing, keep your head down, start deep breathing, close your eyes, do those 5 minutes and start counting backwards, or take very deep breaths. Okay? This would calm down your anxiety if you're having some sort of a panic attack. Anyways, point is, you guys have to do it. You have to do it. It's not, it just, you have to make sure that you get that A. Okay? It's not difficult. I know you're nervous, but believe me, those students who have studied throughout, they have been consistent in their classes, whether they're any teachers' classes, their tuition classes, their college classes. They have gone through all the papers. They have read sample answers. I mean, those people who have done throughout, for them, they don't need to worry. They need to calm down their nerves. They need to calm their anxiety. They need to let the natural laws of God and the natural laws of universe help them. And the natural laws of the universe and the natural laws of God can only help you guys if you have a decent amount of sleep and let things manifest on its own tomorrow. That's all for this, guys. I really enjoy teaching all of you, whether through YouTube or Instagram or through answering your queries. It was a wonderful session. Make sure that you nail it. Make me proud tomorrow, and we'll discuss the paper tomorrow then. And after that, we're going to be having more and more live sessions on YouTube. So see you all. All the best, guys. If you want to have a discussion in the comment, you guys can comment below as well and ask me any questions. I would love to respond to it. And all the best. See you, and see you tomorrow after the exam.